Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the Fly Guy, and welcome to Family on the Fly. Today we'll be discussing rod assembly. Today I'm going to show you how to wrap your guides on your rod. What you do is you take the thread over the rod, under it, and back out to the side. Put your other finger like this, pull it on the other side of the line like this, and just wrap over it slowly. And once you got like 3 turns, pull it tight like that, and then you got your start. And once you got your start, you just go back over it. And it helps if you have a some kind of magnifying glass or headlamp where you can see real good and see what you're doing. But basically you just want to go like that. See how I got started there? And after you get a ways, you get some scissors and definitely trim that off, this excess here. After I've wrapped around about 10 times, I'll come back, cut my excess thread off where it's about just, 1/4 of an inch left over there, and then it should look nice and neat like that. And that would be like on your guide there. But you want to get up to about, 1/4 inch at least to 1/2 inch, depends on the size of the guide. And then once you do that, you get some 2 pieces of thread overlapping to form a little loop. Put that on against the rod, tight like that. And once you get enough thread on, I again do it like 20 more times, or enough up to your guide. I would show you with a guide on, but I don't have enough guides. They're all built. But what we'll do now is you hold pressure down on your rod just a little bit, just enough to keep the thread from coming unwound. Cut your thread about this far up, a couple inches up, like that, and hold on to it. While you're holding on to it, put it through this loop here, which should be bigger, but it's been used before, that's why it's not too big. So, but like that. Put it through here. There we go, I see the loop now. I need better eyes, or a magnifying glass, like I said. So you get through there. There. So you hold like that, you got through your loop now. And with the other end, you pull, voila. And there you go. Nice, even thing for a guide. Looks good. And then that's how you start building a fly rod. The hard thing about building a fly rod is probably getting your guide space things right, and my son can testify to that. And also getting the right cork for the rod. That takes a lot of sanding if you don't get the right cork, or if they don't give you the right cork if you get a kit. And then putting the reel seat on to match up to your guide so everything's lined up. But once you do 1 or 2, it basically goes real easy. Anybody can do it with a little practice. I'm just showing the basics here, and it can get as advanced as you want. Where if you want to do fancy rod wrappings like this, or something real basic, you don't have to have the fancy rod wrapping to fish, but it just adds a little to it. Here's what the finished guides look like when you do it. This is a rough one. It's a basic one, but it works. It's caught fish on it before. Stuff like that. This is one of my first fishing poles I ever rewrapped, and that's why it doesn't look as good as some of the new ones. But you can go from the very basics to extremes on rod wrapping. But this is a basic one here. Okay, next, after you get your rod thread on there and your guide on there, is you want to start wrapping, or start lacquering. Now, finger polish could work, thinner, that could work, or fingernail polish could work, but they make good rod finishes for your line. But this is in a pinch, you're out, you broke a rod, or broke a guide off your rod, and you want to do something in a pinch, you can use fingernail polish. But what I recommend is some good quality rod winding finishing product for the thread, and just take your time and go over it 2 or 3 times. It takes about 24 hours to dry. The real good finishing product, lacquer thinner or lacquer, takes a couple days to dry real good, but this stuff can dry in a few hours if you need to, something in a pinch with fingernail polish. But and it's got to be clear. Don't want to use colored. Robert from Boise, Idaho asks, Dear Mitch, how and when should I clean my reel? I'm an amateur saltwater fly fisherman and I'd like to know. Well, Robert, I would recommend you, first of all, take your line all the way off the spool, take it all the way down to your backing, and use a old cotton cloth or even a sock, and get some mild soap, and then run your line through that. That's one way. And the other way is you can buy commercial line cleaners and use the same technique with a sock or like old cotton hand towel. And now I guess I should get back to how to take care of your reel. That was the line, so now let me tell you how to take care of your reel. The best thing to keep your reel in good working order is do not let it get rusty with salt water or any kind of water, and make sure it's well lubricated. Keep lube in your, they make a reel lube and a reel grease to keep your reels well lubricated. So it's important to make sure your reels are always lubricated, keep all sand and dust off them as possible, and don't drop them in the gravel. You know, just try to take care of them. Be aware of your surroundings if you have to put them down, even between your arms or down your legs, or behind your waders, just to take care of your reel. The main thing is keep them well lubricated and free of sand and dust. Thank you, Robert, for your question. Okay, next I'd like to talk about why it's better to build your own rod rather than going out and buy one. First of all, it's that pride of ownership and that pride of if you do a good job, even if your first rod is not a great job, but you can actually fish with it and catch a fish, it's that feeling you get. Secondly, the price. You can build a rod for as cheap as $30, $40, versus when you get done it could cost a couple $100 to get the same rod if you were to go out and buy it. Now you have to shop around a little bit. I would recommend a few rod building catalogs. You can go on the internet and find those. I'd recommend Cabela's. They're a good catalog to go through. They have a lot of rod building components and stuff to get you started. But when you build a rod, first thing you should look for is what kind of fishing do you want to do with it? Do you want to do fly fishing? Well, this is a fly fishing program, so I'm going to stick with the fly fishing. And I'd probably start with a 8 to 9 foot rod. Probably your first rod, if you have kids, probably a 7.5 to 8 foot rod would be a good rod for them. It's light, it's not too long, and it's a good all-around rod with a 5-weight to 6-weight line. If you're going to do little creeks, like something you could almost jump across, I would build as small as a 6-foot rod for a 3 or 4 weight line. But those two rods will generally cover most of your trout fishing circumstances to get you started. And when you build a rod, like I said, you can get started for as little as $30 or $40. Watch for stuff at garage sales, your old guides after old rods. If you want to build your own, you can save a lot of money just by shopping around at garage sales sometimes and get old rods and use components off those. Mainly your stripping guides and your little guides that go up your rod. Now my son in the background is going to hand me one of my rods here, and I'll show you what I mean. Thank you, Tim. Well, this is your first guide on your rod. It's called the stripping guide. And this is a home guide that I got scavenged off another rod, and that would be your first guide. It's a small one, but they get bigger than that. But they also get smaller too. Excuse me for a second. I get some more. Your next one would be your guides as they go up the rods. All these I got from garage sales. And as you go up, they get smaller and smaller, of course, because your line it's a tapered rod, so it will get smaller at the other end. But something like this, you can get real cheap to get you started. Like get an old rod, even pull an old rod apart and start over just for practice. This rod has been done a few different times. But you know, you can see different colored threads. It was a practice rod, but it will fish and it will get you started to get into the basics of fly fishing. Thank you. Steve, a first-time Bend, Oregon fly fisherman, asks, where in Oregon is a good place for me to get started fly fishing? Well, Steve, I would recommend a body of water that is not too intimidating, like a small creek or a stocked lake that you can go through Fish and Wildlife, and they can tell you where their stocking program is and schedule. Just go on the internet under Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they should recommend some places of where to get started, their stocking dates, and that's probably your easiest place to catch a hatchery fish or an easier fish to catch. And if you don't want to do that, the other recommendation would be try to find a friend or ask around and try to find a place that has a bass pond, crappie pond, because they're easier fish to catch on flies, and they're a lot of fun on the top water. And you don't need a lot of flies or a lot of expertise on catching them. They're not shy to the fly. What I mean by that is they don't get spooked by bad casts on the water. They're easier fish to catch to begin with, the bass or panfish variety, especially the panfish. But anywhere, you living in Bend, Steve, is a great place to grow up to learn how to fly fish. There's lots of places up there. Bend, Sun River, La Pine area, anywhere, the Cascade High Lakes, they're all good. And that's what I'd recommend. Also, if you like our show, go to www.FamilyOnTheFly.web.com to see more information and future programs and shows. Until then, Mitch the Fly Guy saying bye. Family on the Fly. Make it a family experience. Even your dog likes to go.
Music with my friends, and I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, going places that I've